Hello, hello. Welcome to the Mother Daze podcast. I am your host, Sarah Wright Olson.
And I'm Teresa Palmer. And we have the most amazing guest ever today. The gorgeous Jessica Alba is joining us.
Woo-hoo!
Hi, Jess.
Hi. It is so hard to think of how do I introduce you to everybody, as most people know exactly who you are and what you've been doing. But I am going to say Jessica is an actress, producer, mother, entrepreneur. She's been acting since she was, I think this is right, since you were 13 years old. She co-founded The Honest Company, has 3 children, runs a production company, and is currently starring in Netflix's global #1 movie, Trigger Warning, and is an all-around huge inspiration to us. So welcome to the show, Jess.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I always claim to people, I was like, I knew that Jessica Alba was destined for huge things way back when you had this really little teeny tiny supporting role in Never Been Kissed. And I told you this when we hung out. I came to visit Jess and Mark on set, and I literally had this fresh baby right out the womb. And I was like, Jess, I saw you in Never Been Kissed. And I remember, I can picture it right now. You had this really cute little short haircut. And you had this thing where you were like Malibu Barbie, and you were dressed up as Malibu Barbie. And I went to all my little teenage friends and I was like, I just saw the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen on the planet.
Oh my
and she's
God.
so funny and cute and she's amazing. And I just could not stop looking at her. And then I was like, she just was vibrant. There was just this life force in you. And I was like, that girl is destined for massive things. And then I saw you in Idle Hands, and I just I saw it start happening, and then Into the Blue, and then cut to you are among all the posters on my wall. It's like Paul Walker and Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jessica Alba and Jennifer Love Hewitt and Neve Campbell.
Oh my
from
God. I love it.
And I still remember lying in my bedroom being like, oh my gosh, there she is. She made it. The Malibu Barbie girl made it.
I made it. Thank God. I did not have a backup plan.
I mean, did any of us? No.
No. Seriously.
Oh my God.
I was telling Tez that during COVID and post-COVID, you would do these recipe videos on your Instagram.
Yeah.
And you did one for Taco Tuesday that I still religiously make for my children that has pesto and salsa and egg and
so
I don't
good.
know where that recipe came from, but it is so amazing. And my kids are always like, will you make that thing that you found on Instagram? And I was like, Jessica Alba's tacos? Yeah, no problem.
Well, it's nice. I think that is one thing about social media I've appreciated is there's so much creativity. It really has democratized, I think, in so many ways, access to creativity and creative people in every sector.
Yes.
And so at-home cooks, if they upload an inspiring video, then you can kind of take inspiration from that and you can freak it and make it your own. And so I get a lot of inspo, even just there was all the self-care. I didn't ever really do self-care religiously until COVID. And I was so inundated with people doing self-care and mental health and it being and mental wellness being, such an emphasis. So I started doing a lot of self-care. And I have to say, I still do. I think a lot of the things that were really hard about that time in all of our lives, we all can focus on what was horrible and hard, but I try to focus on, what are the takeaways and the good stuff that we can filter through that, and just the family time, the one-on-one time, the routines that I found with my kids that still carry over. and the self-care, which I think is something as mothers, we don't give ourselves the space to do it. Or I feel like society has made us feel guilty. And we might be the reason why we feel guilty, taking time for ourselves or nurturing ourselves. It's like we have to be these sacrificial lambs in order to be the good mom, but it's fake news,
Yeah, absolutely.
I can so relate to that. Like even just going out for a jog this morning, I was like, oh God, can I do it's only 30 minutes, but like I just feel a little selfish going out, and maybe they want me to help them build the cubby. Maybe I could make it more of like a 15-minute run, and then I can come back and I can help like pin all the sheets to make the cubby. And I was like, no, damn it, this is your 30 minutes. Get out there, have your run.
And actually you should have your run, do another like 10 minutes of stretching and warm down, then go have a nice something to eat, get a shower in. Like they're fine. I think what we all sort of realize is like they're going to be okay on the other side of it. And frankly, you being your best self is what they need the most.
Yeah. We always say you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to like fill yourself up first before you can meet the needs of all these other children. I wanted to take you back for a minute to reflect back on your earlier days of your career. Was there a moment where you felt both the thrill and the burden of this newfound fame? Because I can't imagine that was easy, being thrust onto the world stage like that at such a young age.
I think the thrill was lost on me. It felt more like a burden from day one. I was never really comfortable with the spotlight. And so it took me a long time to be gracious in it, and to feel connected to myself and to own whatever that light was. When did I first realize that things were different for me? It was probably my first Christmas home after Dark Angel premiered, which is a TV show I did that James Cameron cast me in when I was 17. And I trained for like a year and a half, and we shot the pilot. And it was like, at the time, I was like, most expensive pilot, everyone, there was just like a lot of hype around it. And then it got picked up for the first season, and it was a pretty big hit. And I came home to my parents' house, and my mom pitched a tent in the front yard and had a stack of headshots and invited a lot of random people and distant relatives. And I basically spent, after working 86-hour weeks, I spent the whole time pretty much signing autographs and taking pictures of people at my own house, where I was supposed to, it's like the one place where you're supposed to feel safe and at home and not people not pulling at you. But my parents were so proud, right? They didn't see it through my perspective, right? They saw it through the perspective of the family so excited, and their friends are so excited, and everyone's so excited. It was like dehumanizing in a way. And I don't blame my parents for it. I mean, they have the best of intentions, but that's when I was like, okay, this is different. So,
and it's different for them.
Yeah,
too,
different for them.
It?
They got treated different, I think, in their community. They also, if people didn't know who they were, they had no problem carrying around.
Telling
everyone at the grocery store, did you know who? And, and the family's proud,
oh my
right?
God.
But
my mom still does that. I'm like, can you stop? Why are you saying my last name to people? She was in Dada. I was like, can you stop? This isn't bad. Mortifying.
Mortifying.
Oh my God.
But I can see as a parent now, my kids doing anything, even like half average. I'm so excited that they just put in the effort, right, to do something. I'm like, oh my God,
Yes.
you completed anything. And I'm so excited. And so I would also want to embarrass them. But I do have to like be considerate of their feelings because I remember how it felt to me. But I do have compassion for my parents. But I think that's when it all kind of felt different. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's jarring. And also just, it's a different, I'm from Kentucky originally. So going home after like the first show that I did, premiered, and like, it's weird. Like you feel weird. You feel very out of your body and like kind of alien like, and no one's looking at you the same. And people are like, at the time they were like writing you on MySpace or Facebook, or whatever it was. And you're just like, where did they come from? Like I haven't talked to this person in so long. So yeah, I mean, I get that. And that's, it's hard to fault anyone in that position because it's all new for everybody. But I cannot imagine how wild that must have been.
And being
you.
so young, I think.
I was like 19.
Oh,
yeah. That was really, maybe 18.
Rough.
18 or 19. Yeah, it was rough. It was
oh my God.
I was little. I
have to say, I went to a funeral once and people were coming up being like, can I get a picture with you? And I was like, no, at a funeral.
It just feels wrong.
So inappropriate.
It feels really wrong. I know.
Oh my God. Oh my God. What a wild existence.
Yeah. And it's something that's so unrelatable to everyday people. I feel like a dick whenever I talk about it because people are like, that is their biggest dream and the panacea of like what achievement looks like. Like, how can anything be horrible when you have fame? And to me, that was never why I did what I did. I wanted to be a character. I wanted to not be myself. I wanted to disappear into people and to be able to be a silly mean girl teenager and never been kissed because I was bullied as a kid, right? So I got to sort of live out what it would be like to be on the other side. Instead of being bullied, I could be the bully, and that fantasy and that. But
I wonder where those bullies are now, by the way.
I know, right?
Like, that was the girl we bullied.
They're probably watching your makeup tutorials.
I know, being like,
I have no idea. I have no idea.
You're like, oh, wow, she does really contour so well. I could do that too.
Oh my God.
But I also think that people's version of who their role in your life at that time, like no one also wants to remember that they were so horrible to you. So they probably were like, we were friends. And I'm
like, great.
Not at all.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so how do you continue to evolve as a person and professional in an industry like ours that's constantly changing?
Don't you feel like if you are on a path of personal evolution, that oftentimes you're waiting for the business to catch up to you?
Mm-hmm. That's such a good point.
Yes,
and our business is so different now. Like it's night and day to what it was, even 10 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's neat about what's funny about this time is they're reinventing streaming and basically turning it into television. You're like, okay, so we're back to commercials. But it's called ad-supported streaming.
Right. We're like, oh yeah, we know that.
Sure. Yeah, I remember television. Now there's more options. And I think what's cool is it allows for more stories to be told. And so I would say 10, 15, 20 years ago, there was such a finite amount of stories that could be told because the people in charge, they were like, the lanes were narrow. And they only gave certain people shots where I feel like because there are freeways and there's many different audiences out there and nuance works, niche works. Actually, I think the coolest thing is seeing how different cultures and communities can make really mass appeal create, products, TV shows that are in totally different languages through totally different perspectives, and global audiences are like, I want all of this.
Yes.
And so I think the more specificity in a interesting way that you can have as a creator, no matter where you're from, that actually is what people are looking for.
And craving.
Yeah. Instead of the more kind of vague, watered down kind of stories that we were inundated with in the early 2000s, where everyone was kind of afraid to make a decision. So it was like trying to be everything.
Did the same thing.
Yeah, the same thing over and over again, and everything to everyone. The niche, I think, is cool.
Yeah, it definitely feels so different. I remember when I first got to Hollywood, like 2007, you were either a movie star or you're a television star.
TV. Yeah.
Do you remember?
Right?
And it was like, well, she doesn't do TV. She's only a movie star. Now it's like, I'm dying to do TV. I really want to do TV. And things have changed.
I'm like, I just want to do sitcom. That's all I want to do is sitcom. Can somebody please put me in a sitcom? It's so much fun.
It's
amazing.
So different. And it's ingrained in me, like the language and the conversations surrounding like the judgments of careers and what's hot, and she's got momentum right now, and this person's really hot in the industry, and you need like your international worth, your foreign, all the stuff that's has such an erosive effect on people's self-worth.
Well, they kept telling me all those things, right? And then I would do all those things that they talked about. And I'm like, but my life isn't any different. Like, you guys keep saying, and then you need to do this, and then you need to do that, and then you need to do this.
And nothing would change?
No, nothing would change. And I'm like, there's not. I think what I realized is that we just have to create the opportunities we want. And we have a lot more power when we trust our instincts and our intuition, and also like release things that also aren't meant for us. Like, thank God that we didn't do those jobs that we thought that the business was saying, oh, you have to fight for this, and you have to do anything you can to achieve this type of success. And you look at a lot of people who did that and they feel kind of hollow, right? They didn't get to have the relationships and the families, and they weren't filled inside. And we can like wake up every day and we're surrounded by love, and we took different paths, right? That was pretty unconventional. We all, I think, young moms.
Yes,
which is the no in Hollywood.
Oh my
God. It is literally death to your career.
Still get shit for it all the time. It's like, please don't, you're not having any more babies, right? And I'm like, what? Oh, maybe. I
also, like, it's not like it matters. Like, if you didn't tell them about it, they would never know about it anyway.
True.
Like, what does it matter to them?
Oh, Sarah and I have definitely plotted this out for future babies. We're like, we just won't say anything to anyone.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep auditioning from about here up.
Exactly. So was there like any specific turning point that kind of redirected your path?
Yeah, I think, I started working at age 12 pretty consistently. And me working at that age, I got to two things. The biggest thing was financial freedom allowed me to kind of live a different life than I was born into. And I got to contribute to the household income of my family and really contribute. So that was great. And that was a huge benefit. The flip side of that is I felt the pressure of contributing to the household income. And so I felt very burdened with that responsibility at an early age. So by the time I was like 26, when I got pregnant with my first daughter, Honor, it almost felt like a midlife crisis for me. Like, I was really like in a weird
way.
By
26,
I was like really, and it's interesting. They say like spiritually, you go through a big change. That 27 so many people.
Yes, that's right.
At 27, it's one of those sort of death to your old self, birth to a new self. And I really felt that with Honor, because I really like stepped into, I almost like shed that skin like a snake or something. I shed that skin and I became this next phase of myself. And really finally felt my feet on the ground. I think I finally felt really whole as a person. Like spiritually, I had an alignment that I never had before. I always felt like I was kind of flailing prior to that.
Yes.
So that was a big turning point for me.
Wow. I mean, that's really beautiful. And I love that was like the step into motherhood. I mean, the mid-20s are tough anyway. I had a full, and I think about it now and it makes me laugh, but like at 25, I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I'm so old. And like, I was like crying and I was just like, is this ever like, I don't have a backup plan. Like, I'm just like doing the same thing, going out for pilot season every year. Like, I'm like, what is happening? Like, all these people are accomplishing so many things, and so that's amazing. And then you became a mom, at what some people would say is very young, like not in Kentucky because that's, different. A little old in Kentucky, but
in my family, it's like the suburbs and they get married young and they have kids young.
Yes.
It's similar. It's very kind of like traditional old school values. And so even waiting till 27 and I was unmarried, which is very scandalous. And then I got married while I was 9.5 months pregnant and all of that stuff. I was like, I don't care. I don't care about any of these social norms. I don't care about your guilt or judgment. I don't care about any of it. It literally affects me 0%.
So wait, you had like a super cute baby bump when you were getting married?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call it super cute. I gained like a lot of weight. I gained almost a whole other me.
Another person? Yeah, got it. I did that too with my daughter.
Enormous.
Oh my God.
My husband just was so excited to eat because I didn't eat that much because I was an actress, actress diet.
Yeah.
You're lucky if you eat once a day. And he literally cooked an entire thing of bacon every morning, sometimes 2.
Oh my God.
And every night he ordered a minimum of 4 to 5 desserts every night. So we blew up together.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
But I lost it first. He
kept it
hilarious for like a year. Yeah.
That's so good. Teresa was too.
I did the same thing. So I was also raised Catholic, but then I had the weight of my mom's like Catholic guilt on my shoulders. So I was like, all right, fuck it. Like I'll just get whatever. I'm pregnant already. I'll just get married to Mark. Like, Mark, let's just get married, because my mom wouldn't be able to face her church with a daughter who was not married and pregnant. So I ended up, we like got hitched when I was probably 7 months pregnant. I was the same age as you. So that's when I had my baby too. And I remember my team were like, what? You're pregnant? Like, what? We thought you were going to have babies when you're in your late 30s. And I was like, I announced to you guys when I was 19 years old, I was like, hi, William Morris. Nice to meet everyone, but I am going to be a mother first and foremost. I'm going to have 6 babies. Like, this is exciting and everything, but I'm going to be a mom. So I was like, I told you, I warned you.
That's amazing that you told them that.
At her first meeting.
My first meeting. You know when you get like sent around to meet like all the heads of the agency. It's like straight off the boat from Australia. Like, woo, here I am. I'm going to be a mom. I'm really passionate about parenthood. I don't have a boyfriend, but I will get one. And then I will have a baby.
She's like, but I'm on the lookout.
It's happening.
If you know any cute guys with some tattoos, can you please hook me up?
The lookout. Yes, I was.
Major mission.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did your experiences in the business influence your approach to entrepreneurship? Or was it motherhood that influenced you into this world?
I think it was both. I think when I started The Honest Company, it really came out of wanting everyone to thrive. Like, I was really sick as a kid, and I just felt like there's so many people who don't even realize they're sick because of products that they're using, right?
Yes.
Products that their parents are using. And it's so unnecessary. And it's an easy fix, right? If you literally just eliminate, for me, the big culprit was fragrance. So anything that said perfume or fragrance in an ingredient list, if I eliminated that, like 98% of my issues went away.
Wow.
And that was a big aha moment for me. And then when I learned about other toxic chemicals and kind of how they hide chemicals inside of fragrance or perfume ingredient lists, it was even more of a like aha moment. But just there's unnecessary chemicals that we're being exposed to that can make people sick. And I was like, I can create a nonprofit charity to bring awareness around this. I lobbied on Capitol Hill, but that's not really going to fix the problem. I mean, we live in a country that really is built on capitalism, and thank God, because anybody who comes from anywhere can have an idea. And if you have enough grit, you can figure out how to turn that idea into something successful. And I was like, why can't I be one of those people? And it was not an overnight thing. It took about 3.5 years to really get it off the ground. And there were lots of starts and stops and starts and stops. But I wanted to embed the values of a nonprofit into a for-profit business. So it's kind of like social entrepreneurship, where there's a social aspect to it, but it's still a for-profit business. And I was like, if people can have an option to make a better decision with their buying habits, and they choose honest, then maybe it will influence the overall industry to do better. And it did.
It really did. It did. I mean, I felt like an awakening happened within me just learning about the Honest Company. Like, I remember being pregnant with my son. I had him in 2013. And I remember like calling the Honest, by the way, I was like using the Honest Company customer service line to be like, so my baby has this rash, like what should I use on it? And then they would be like, sure, we can try to help you. Try that, whatever. And it was just so cute, but it felt like when you guys first started, it felt like such a quaint, small place and it felt really safe. And also there was so much great messaging within your whole world. So it was like learning, toxic chemicals. Okay. Like I need to look out for this. Wait, what about my own shampoo? What about my own lotion? What about the stuff that I'm using on my face? And just what an amazing thing that you did for so many of us of this, generation to wake up to some of those brands that I won't name that we grew up using as teenagers that were the ingredient list is 57 ingredients long. And you're just like, wow. What?
Yeah. And I think when you also just look up and you're like, the rise of cancer that is caused by the environment, the rise of learning disabilities caused by the environment, early puberty, difficulty getting pregnant. You think of everyone who's on the IVF journeys and everyone who has fibroids and cysts. I mean, the thing about a lot of these chemicals is they're hormone disruptors. So they basically act like steroids to your hormones. It pumps something artificial to make your hormones grow not grow abnormally, but respond abnormally in your body.
Wow.
And so that can have lifelong issues. And a lot of times our babies are born with hundreds of chemicals in the cord blood.
Already in them.
Yeah. And so this was all something that I was like, I don't know if everybody knows this. And
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone has time to even know this. If I can be like a little like messenger, but instead of it being so scary and awful, what if I created a solution and give people hope that it can be done better? And so that was really the mission.
And it was accessible. It was, you made it accessible. We could buy, it wasn't at these like tiny little niche stores. Like it suddenly like was widespread and everyone had access to making that better choice for their babies. And it was like right when we were having babies too, it blew up. I remember going to the pump station for my mummy and me classes.
Oh yeah. That was like our first, that was like our first partnership, our first store, and we did activations there. And I used to dress the windows there with my team. I love it.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. We both went there
Hollywood.
for all of our mommy and me.
Yeah, I met so many of my mum friends from there actually, and I would always go and I'd get like the little like foam pump, and I'd get the nappies with the, or you call them diapers with the with the little like skull and crossbone print. Do you remember those, Sarah? And I was so inspired by it. And then I really think that you triggered something in other companies and they stepped up to the plate and other people started releasing things and just becoming more conscious. So that was obviously quite a significant shift from acting for you. How was that approach? Did you actively say like, all right, I'm going to take a beat out from acting, or were you still continuing with your acting journey as you were just breathing life into this new business venture?
I really did not care about acting after I was really fully into Honest. I cared about it from a passion standpoint, but it wasn't like my entire identity, everything that I stood for, which is what it was before. It was all consuming for me before. And I would say becoming a mom, starting the business, I just had like another focus. And so if I ever did anything in acting, it was like, I couldn't be gone for more than 10 days at a time. The money had to make sense so that it didn't cost me more money to do the thing. I did a lot of favors if I did anything. It really wasn't like me like going hard on the paint and like, weekly meetings with my reps. And like, it wasn't like that at all. Like I was really focused on the business aspect of my life, and the acting was a nice to have. But I never shut it down completely. It was just more of a nice to have, where now I would say I'm kind of Honest, took on a life of its own, took it public in 21, have an incredible leadership team and CEO. And so they're running the business. And I think for the phase that it's in now, I don't think I'm that helpful or useful. And so I'm more of the visionary, set it up, creativity, that, and it's really about streamlining and efficiency, which is not where I thrive. And so I was like, I'm going to let the people who are really good at doing that go run the business. And then I'm going to put my focus back into a space that I love so much. And I think entertainment and media, storytelling is just such a passion of mine. And the first movie that I got to produce is Trigger Warning. And to be able to take a genre that is so male dominant and to be able to freak it in the way that I got to freak it with a lot of women at the helm, many heads of departments, and to be able to have like Mark, your husband, join me and have like real strong actors in it, not just someone who with the like talking head with the jawline. I was like, no, I want an amazing actor. And to be uncompromising. I think what I learned about business that I can bring into now entertainment is just how uncompromising you can be. And when you just stick to your guns, they're gonna like, either they're in or they're not. And if they're not, then it's not meant for you. It's fine. Then keep it moving on to the next.
That's a beautiful way of looking at it. I actually wish that I had that when I was younger, because I would get so wrapped up in opportunities passing me by and be like, oh, that was my one. That was the biggest opportunity of my career. And, I'm so not in that place anymore that like, if it's yours, it will be yours. If it's not meant to be yours. It's not for you. We should talk about trigger warning because obviously to you, did that far exceed your expectations in terms of landing with the audience that it did? It was really mind-blowing to Mark and I sitting here in bed, like looking at the numbers going up and across the world. It was everywhere.
Globally. Yeah. I mean,
I think streaming is so incredible and Netflix is incredible in our part, the partnership with Netflix, but just how like they make art available to anyone all at once. Like it's just incredible the impact that platform has. And it was really cool. It was like one of those things because I think I am spiritual and I think Honest was taking up so much space for me. And when something takes up so much space, it's hard to make space for something else. Like you only have so much space, right? And so once I sort of cleared that space, I was like open to a new thing. And I'm really stepping into this next phase, not knowing what's going to happen, starting a production company and putting things into development. Like I've never done this and solely focused on this before. It's new territory for me. And so just walking in blindly, and it's scary, especially when you have done other things successfully. I've already been in entertainment successfully. I don't know how the hell I got there, but when I look back, it's like, it wasn't too shabby. Right. And then, and especially considering where I come from. And then also in business, I had, some wins there. And so when I look back, and when I look forward, it's a little scary going into the unknown. And then when it's successful, I just feel really grateful. A lot of gratitude.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, the fact that this movie has done what it's done and has reached so many people and is this global success, and that this is your like first venture with your production company. Like, are you kidding me? That's out of this world. And you probably couldn't expect anything better than that. So.
Yeah, it was really neat.
As you were talking, you were sort of a couple of times have said something about how spiritual you are. And Teresa and I have talked a lot about our spiritual journeys. Like I grew up a Baptist, she grew up a Catholic, and neither one of us are a part of those religions, but like have found our way now into this like spiritual space of, the universe and connecting to our intuition and being very much into manifesting. Like what is your sort of spiritual, if you don't mind me asking, like your spiritual path, or are you into manifesting? And do you have this?
I think we all do it, whether we realize it or not. Yeah, I mean, I think you also can manifest challenges and you can manifest hardship because your soul needs that growth. Because you usually only really grow when you're going through something difficult. So I think we actually energetically create a lot more than we give ourselves credit for. I think that the patriarchal religions that we all grew up with and have dominated the world have come to it's sort of like the tipping point. And I feel like there's a lot of women right now who have a new understanding of, I would call it like the divine feminine, and a connection with your intuition, the connection with the earth, the connection with the cosmos, the connection more holistically with energy that exists and is part of all things. And I think that it's not void of masculine. We are all, I think, both the divine feminine and masculine, but it's bringing us into like a unity consciousness, or like bringing us into this equilibrium that has been not the case for such a long time. And I think they call it like the Kundalini rising. They call it like there's all these different terms for how it kind of shows up in different belief systems. I grew up kind of Catholic and Christian, you know, and again, I don't subscribe to any of the patriarchal kind of ideas about God or any of that. But I do believe that there is an energy source. I believe in the light. I also believe that the darkness isn't always so bad. And I think we learned so much from that time.
Everything that you're saying, Jess, is like, oh my God, you're so our people. Because it's like, this is exactly the stuff that we've been talking about for the last 6 months on the podcast, just because as soon as we started talking about it, it was like everyone that was a listener of our show was like, yes, like this is the stuff that I'm so into right now. And like, is there a way that you practice what it is that you're talking about? Like, is there a podcast that you listen to, or do you like write in a journal about some of this, or I
listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of books on it. I do journal. I think the biggest thing is I've done a lot of I meditate, and I don't meditate in silence TM. I've tried that. I think that is probably for, I don't know if it's a more enlightened soul or just a different soul. I like to listen to music, or I guide myself through a meditation, or I listen to a guided meditation. So I do something along those lines, but it's really just to connect with my heart.
Yes.
And connect with like my truth, and to kind of stop the constant criticism and the sort of Rolodex of items that my mind likes to check off and think about all the time. And even if I could just spend 10 minutes to just connect with my heart and just connect with my breath, that to me is what my spiritual practice is. And sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter, but and it's not a religion, and it's actually all encompassing. Like, I believe there's space for all beliefs. And I think if your person is Mary Magdalene, or your person is Buddha or Kuan Yin or whatever, or all of it, I think there's actually room for all of it. And I think it doesn't really matter. I think it's whatever gets you there. And to just like connect with that intuition, and to kind of, you don't have to believe all of your thoughts.
Yeah. Oh my God. That is such great advice, because so many of them are so intrusive.
Yeah. It's just, and sometimes, they come in from, there's so many different things that can influence your thoughts and your thought process and your patterns. Even energetically, like when you walk in a room sometimes and you're like, this room feels wild, or this room feels good.
Yes.
We're so sensitive, and we don't always put like a name on that, or we don't always like go deeper on what that is.
We just are so hard on ourselves. It can be really debilitating, where the anxiety where you're worrying about the future, or where you get stuck in thinking about the past and you get depressive. So it's so freeing when you can liberate yourself from your mind playing those games with you. I wanted to ask you about your relationship with Cash. You guys have been together forever, and you have this big, beautiful, long-standing relationship, which I'm sure, like any relationship, has had its ebbs and flows. And of course, you've weathered many storms. Who doesn't when they have so many children? And, you're in this extraordinary world where everything's really heightened because of what you do. How have you stayed connected throughout the years? Because I think it's so rare in this industry.
We both consistently have to check in with ourselves and then with each other, and just choose, like, it's like re-upping on a consistent basis to choose each other. You can, at any moment, we can be out, right? And do something else. But we consistently, when we're at that point, we consistently want to choose each other. And I think that is hard. And I think there's lots of challenging moments along the way. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty, it's like, would we want to do this life with someone else? And we keep just choosing each other. And then it's like, okay, so now that we're doing that, then it's like, what needs to be true? Then you have to check in, because I'm not the same person as I was when I was 26 or 27 or 24 or 20, even 30. I was different than I am now. I thought I was 42. I might be 43. My brother's birthday is actually today. And I was like, wait, you're turning 41 because I'm 42. And my mom was like, no, I think he's turning 42. And
you're
I'm
like, oh, wait.
Oh, shoot. I guess
I lost a year.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, that's so funny. I perpetually think I'm 33. I'm just always 33 in my head. I'm never getting any older than that.
There you go. Eternally.
Yeah.
I think once you hit 40, it's just like you lose count, right?
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
You're just 32, 33. It's fine.
Forever.
Forever. But I think what's interesting is like being also comfortable to state your needs and to really I was afraid. I don't know if I was afraid. I was probably afraid to really connect with what are my needs? What do I need to feel good in a relationship today with where I'm at? And it's different than where I was. And how can I voice that without it turning into a fight, and it feeling something that needs to be combated with? Because I think in the beginning it was like, well, you're not doing this and I need that. And you're, whatever that is, but that's not the way to get it. The way to get it is, here's my truth. And I know you must have a truth. And can we find our way to each other? So it's just a different approach.
That just sounds really profound to me. No, it does. It's like, because really it's as simple as that, isn't it? What is your truth? What is mine? And how can they coexist? And then, it's interesting because each of you come into partnership with your own conditioning, like the way he was raised and everything that he learned from his upbringing, and then the way that I was raised and everything that I learned from my upbringing. And then, of course, Mark, he sees the world in his own colors. And then I see the world in mine. And we're trying to blend these palettes together and cohabit and raise babies. I think in this industry in particular, couples fall apart all the time. There is really intense scrutiny and pressure, and you're in the public eye, and it's just the oddness of this industry. It's a really unique world to try and have a romantic relationship in. And so I really look at you guys, you and Cash, as such a success story.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I would hate for people to think that it's not, with its complexity and flaws and all the things. And I think what I realized in therapy with Cash is we literally see the world in completely different ways. We have very different lived experiences, and that's okay. As long as we're just acknowledging that we are not seeing the world the same way, but when we can try and find our commonalities, I would say the thing that we do consistently, we are on the same page as raising our kids and the values that we want to raise them with and the home we want to create for them. That is consistent. And so the other stuff is not always, as consistent, but that is pretty consistent. We want the kids to feel safe, but we also want them to feel the freedom to screw up and try things and find their way. We're not always going to, hold their hand through everything. And we want them to kind of push themselves a little bit. And so, it's an interesting balance to teach your kids grit but then also give them the safety net that you're always going to be there for them, you know?
Well, that's actually what I wanted to ask you about next, was about your kids, because Tez, like, I don't have teenagers yet. And, you know, my oldest is 10.
It's not.
Yeah. So I need to know. I need to know.
Yeah.
I'm so scared.
It's not good.
Tell us everything. We need it.
Oh, it's not good. You know, it's kind of, so I literally started going to therapy with my kids when they both were like in that, what is it, preteen age when they started.
Oh my God.
It's like that 10, 11 age when they're just like, you don't know anything. And they constantly think that like everything you say is a fight. And I don't know if you guys are there yet.
Not yet, but it's it's coming for us. I do see it with Mark and Isaac a little bit, but you know, we know we're headed that way.
And so I was like, okay, this is kind of, I feel like when I disassociated from my mom, and I had a pretty tough time finding my way back to my mom. And we're still, probably because of me, we're still like, you know, and we can get into like soul families and choices and why we choose people in the long run. But ultimately, I wanted my kids and me, I wanted us to have like a good relationship through this difficult time. So I was like, let's go to therapy. You have free reign to basically complain about me, and you're not allowed to get in trouble. And this is where, and so I would like say, because at first they didn't really believe me. And I was like, kind of remember when I like sent you to your room when you didn't get, you know, your sister was playing with your slime and you smacked her. And I was like, you have to go to, did that upset you? And, you know, I would like bring up certain things where, or when I yelled a little bit too loud, when you didn't, you know, X, Y, or Z, when you know, threw water on your sister about this or that, or whatever it is.
Sounds like my house.
Yeah, whatever it is. And so then they were like, okay. And they then felt comfortable speaking about it. And I had to really, I was humbled, man. You know, I really had to like check myself and think about, hey, even if I think I'm doing something right, and even if this is good parenting and I'm setting boundaries and I'm checking all the boxes, it's not about me being right.
So true.
It's actually, that's not what my kid needs right now. My kid needs me just to, sometimes I do need to set boundaries, and that's okay. But then in a lot of instances, they just want to feel heard. And they just want to feel like their opinion matters. And they want to get out the full expression of themselves. And they also, I would treat them both the same. And they both had a problem with that. You know, my younger one felt entitled to everything my older one got. And then my older one was like, why is she allowed to get everything that I get? And so that was like another learning moment for me. Because I was like, because it's just easier to treat you guys the same. And then when my daughter Honor started to really kind of completely disconnect from me, and really they really individuate at this age, 16. Like she's the cord, the invisible umbilical cord is completely cut. We are not tethered in the same way we were, and she's pretty grown, right? And I cry when I like about that, and it's really hard for me. And her therapist, I was like, I had a session and I was like, let's talk about honor and how I can be different, and how can you help me teach her that like boundaries are still a thing, and she's still living under my roof, and I'm still going to parent her, and we got 2 more years. And she was like, here's the thing. When Honor does this behavior, that behavior, this behavior, don't let the 15-year-old in Honor bring out the 15-year-old in Jessica.
Oh,
wow.
Okay.
And I was like,
okay.
Wow. But that is so true.
So true. And I was
my gosh.
It's even happening with my 12-year-old. My 12-year-old, I got the 12-year-old in me.
Oh, my little 10-year-old, my 10-year-old Bodhi will say something. I'll be like, ooh, and something will come out of me. And I'm like, oh my God, hello, child Teresa. What just happened? Why are you triggered? Yeah. It is so funny.
They trigger us and they're mirrors. And it's so interesting. I think what I didn't realize about parenting is how they're there for your evolution so that you're shoulder to the shoulders that they stand on. So they're meant to be more evolved than you, right? But it's only by you taking that reflection and you behaving differently. You can almost like reparent yourself by parenting your kids and evolving that way. It's complex, but God, is humbling. And it's also incredible and fulfilling, but it's not easy.
Well, my biggest takeaway though is like, what a great idea to be going to therapy with your kids when you're getting into that, time period of life, because I definitely remember like having full on, my mom was only 20 years older than me. So we like grew up together, and so like, she's 40, I was 20, like we went through so much together. And so the idea of like somebody being able, like an outside source, being able to sit there across from us and like talk us through, would have been amazing. There were so many times when my dad sat me down and was just like, listen, your mom's doing the best she can. Like, you have to remember how she was brought up and where she came from. And like, you need to be easier on her because you've had all this life experience and you've learned all these things. And it's like, you're different. You're a very different person than her. And I would sit there and be like, oh, Dad. And now, as a 40-year-old, I'm like, oh my God, he's so right. And I feel so bad for how hard I was on my mom as a teenager. But like, I can't, if somebody would have been able to sit there and like, talk us through it, like what a wonderful thing to take away from what you were just talking about is just, being able to like do that, like go to therapy with your kids and say, how do I do this?
Yeah.
You're amazing. Thank you so much. Everything that you've said today, I feel so inspired by. I think you're such an incredible role model for women, for young children, for people just coming up in the world, to see someone who's like, you have all the things that you dreamt of and you've created it yourself. And I love where you came from and what you've blossomed into. And you're such a good parent. And I just think you're really like a wonderful person for people to look up to in this crazy industry and this crazy life. So thank you for all the generosity that you're giving out to the world, because it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. I'm like, I'm very flawed, but I guess that's also part of
we all, we all are. But like, I appreciate the way that you opened up to talk about just like even using some of the language that you did about spirituality and soul family, and just like understanding that we get to choose who it is that we, honor and love and put as our like, people, and just, all the things that you discussed today. It was so beautiful and meaningful. And it's also really fun to learn this side of you, and to hear this side of you is just a whole new world of inspiration. So thank you so much for being on our show, for coming and sharing all of this with us. And you guys have been listening to the Mother Daze, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And check out Trigger Warning if you haven't already, or just watch it again.
I'm sure everyone has. Yeah. Watch it for a second time.
Stream it multiple times. Might as well. It's already globally #1. So we can't wait to see and hear all the things coming from your production company in the future, Jessica.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you so much for having me.